This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to I'll Have Another Podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you're here today. This podcast is supported by Previnex. If you are looking for clinically effective supplements that promote longevity and everyday health, look no further than Previnex. Their multivitamin and their Joint Health Plus are my go-tos every single day. I actually also take their probiotic because in my Inside Tracker results, I found out that I needed to be taking a daily probiotic. And I made sure that all of their numbers were lined up with where I needed to be, with what I needed to be taking. And they also have a really great protein powder. So if you want to check out Previnex and purchase your vitamins and supplements from a company that has really clean and safe ingredients, go to Previnex.com, use the code ANOTHER, and that'll get you 15% off your first order. All right, today's episode is a fun one. It is with Benita Willis. Benita happens to be the coach of Lindsay Flanagan, who just ran a huge PR at the Gold Coast Marathon in 2:24:43. So when I talked to Benita, Lindsay had just ran the Paris Marathon and had a great race. And now she's just had another great race. Benita is a legend distance runner in Australia. She is a 4-time Olympian, 2000, 2004, 2008, and 2012. She's a 3-time national champion in the 5,000 meters. And one thing we talk about in this episode was super fun because she breaks down this race. Even though it was 18 years ago, still so fresh. She holds a gold medal in World Cross Country Championships from 2004. She has a marathon PR of 2:22, which is the Australian record. And she also holds so many other Australian records on the roads and on the track. Benita is pregnant with her first child and coaches at Lace Up Running. She coaches pros and everyday athletes. And when I interviewed Lindsay Flanagan, it was actually right before she ran the Paris Marathon. She told me that Benita Willis was her coach, and we immediately, Emma, my assistant, and I looked her up and booked her for this podcast. And so it's extra exciting to have her episode coming out now right after Lindsay's big race as well. So if you do love this podcast, if you can share it with anybody you think might enjoy it, I would appreciate it so much. And don't forget to leave us a quick rating and review. We do give a pair of Gooder sunglasses away every single month to new ratings and reviews. And actually in June, our pair of Gooder shades is going to Sarah Speed Up on iTunes. So Sarah, send me an email, lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com, to claim your Gooder sunglasses. Your review is by Sarah Speed Up, great for the daily run or running errands. Thank you for that review. All right, friends, enjoy my conversation with Benita Willis. All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Benita Willis on the show. Welcome to the show, Benita.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, it's not every day that I get to talk to a 4-time Olympian, so this is quite an honor.
Yeah, look, it's just one of those things that, I did. It feels like it was a long time ago, but yeah, something I'm really proud of for sure.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of Olympians, but the 4-time, that's a rarity, really. It truly is.
Yeah, and look, I didn't know if I'd make that last one in London in 2012. So, yeah, it was tough. The last couple were tough, but yeah, very proud of it. And it seems 10 years ago. It seems like a long time.
That's crazy. The older we get, the faster the time goes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, Benita is coming to us from Australia. It is 6 a.m. her time, 4 p.m. my time. Do you typically get up super early?
Yeah. So I've got a little dog. He's like a little poodle cross, and he's always up early. But yeah, normally we get up about 5 o'clock. And I live on the Gold Coast in Queensland, and when you go walking your dog at 5:30 in the morning, everyone's up. But then everyone's down the beach. You know, it's right sort of on some of the most beautiful beaches in Australia here. And, you know, everyone's at coffee shops. All the coffee shops here open at 5 a.m. But
Really?
then, you know, yeah. But everyone goes to bed at about 8 o'clock.
Really? That's just the way of life.
Yeah. And look, I mean, there's big nightclubs and stuff down near Surfers Paradise. So I'm sure it's different down there. But I live on the southern end of the Gold Coast, and it's a beautiful way of life. And I'm definitely a morning person.
So this is different for you now. Like back in the day when you were hardcore training, you would be up at 5 to run. Now you're up at 5 to walk your dog.
Yeah, well, look, when I was hardcore training, I would have liked to have trained at 5, but the group I trained with, they didn't usually meet till about 8:30 or 9. So, and when I was running too, I would have loved to have a dog, but I moved around so much and travelled so much. So since I got my dog Hunter, it's been so awesome having a dog and just being somewhere for a long time rather than travelling around. And I did love that lifestyle when I was a runner, but you know, I just really enjoy now not having to travel as much as I used to, for sure.
Okay, and you have some big, exciting things happening. You're having a baby.
Yeah, we're having a baby. Yeah, I'm just past 21 weeks. Yeah, and this is my first baby. And Anthony, my partner, and I were really excited. And it's been a pretty hard journey. I've had a lot of miscarriages, unfortunately, probably due to my age a bit as well. And we didn't meet till I was about 40. So so we always knew it was going to be hard. But we just feel so lucky that this has happened. And and we're having a girl as well. So we found out, very excited. And it's just one of those things that I've always wanted to have a baby, but you just want to be in the right sort of relationship and the right time in your life. And, you know, obviously I know a lot of people that are pregnant at the moment that are 10 years younger than me. And sometimes, you know, that's when people typically start families. But it's worked out a bit differently for me. But very excited, and I still feel like I'm 32, even though I'm 40, just turned 43.
Was that, I mean, being in such a high achieving athlete for so many years and that being your world for so long, was it ever hard, like thinking, I know I want that to be part of my life, but I don't know how or when it'll come about?
Yeah, it was really hard, you know, because as an athlete, I felt like it was too much of a selfish lifestyle to sort of be having kids and then still competing, and that was sort of my view, but I wasn't in the right sort of relationships then as well as an athlete, and I always sort of really wanted to have kids, and it wasn't until my sister had a baby, and she had a baby just after the London Olympics in 2012. So my sister is also an athlete. She's got a gold medal at the Com Games, and she's been to lots of world championships in the 400 metres, so she's a sprinter. Yeah, and then when she just missed the London Olympic team, she decided to have a baby with her husband. And once she had a baby, I actually decided to move back from America because I just missed not seeing like my niece grow up. And so I moved back to Australia mainly because I missed my family so much and started to have lots of nieces and nephews. So it was probably since about 2012 that I was thinking I'd love to have kids, but I just wasn't in the right situation until about 4.5 years ago. Yeah.
How did you meet your partner?
Well, Anthony and we met online.
Okay.
It's a funny story, because we met at Gold Coast Marathon. So, so I'm an ambassador for Village Roadshow Theme Parks Gold Coast Marathon, and that's in early July each year. It's a gold label World Athletics race and the only one in Australia, so it's a big race. But it was just one of those things that he was living on the Gold Coast and I was living in Brisbane, and I was at the convention centre signing autographs for people. As an ambassador, I was there with a lot of the other ambassadors, and he actually came into my line to get an autograph before we were going to have like catch up that afternoon. So it was pretty funny. So I knew what he looked like and stuff. And then, the first time we met, we chatted for like 4 hours, and and we've been pretty inseparable since. So that was in 2018. Yeah,
so wait, you match online, whatever platform you're using, and then he figures out who you are, and then he comes to the signing before. Was it awkward?
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny actually. And you know, one of my friends' partners, I'd showed photos of Anthony, and I was just like saying, I'm going to catch up with this guy later on, and she actually saw him too when he came into my line. And like, it wasn't like he's not one of those people that would have known anything about what I've done. So it's sort of more like I love meeting people for how people take me rather than achievements that I've done. So it's just one of those things that I think I probably told him I'll be at the convention centre doing this signing thing. And I don't really even say anything I've done. Like on my profile online, it would have just said, I like running, I've been an athlete, but I wouldn't have said anything much about what I've done. So, yeah. And he was just sort of, it was just a bit of a joke, but funny. And then, and then we met up afterwards and it was awesome. So.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so glad you found your person.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and it was just one of those things that was probably one of the best parts of my life is finding Anthony, and then everything else, it works out in the end, whether, you have kids or whatever. If you have your person, then everything else will always be happy ever after. So, yeah, so we feel so lucky that this has happened, and and very excited for sure. And we're trying to get the renovations done a bit. We're doing some house renovations at the moment. We're trying to get them done a bit quicker before the baby's born, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Did you try once you all got together and then you had the miscarriages, did you try to reconcile those feelings at all? Like, this might not happen for us?
Yeah, it was very hard. Yeah, it was one of those things that initially I thought, it won't be too hard. I think I was almost 40 when we started. And yeah, I had a few, quite a few in 2019. And yeah, it's just one of those things that, you want to keep trying, but you also have to recognise the loss as well. And it was pretty hard. 2020 was pretty hard. And obviously it was a hard year for a lot of people with the lockdowns and COVID and all that kind of stuff as well. And you just sort of, I think in my mind, I was thinking, I've got to accept that it might not happen. And if it does happen, it'll be awesome. But it can't be the only thing that you constantly think about with how you're going to live your life. And I think I still enjoyed other things in my life, and I didn't make it the focus of what was happening in my life every day. Was missing this part of my life. So I think that's how I sort of dealt with it in my head, and also thinking if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But it is very upsetting, and that we did have quite a lot. So it was, one of those things that I think, I felt it was hard. I think it's hard when you see other people with the same joy, because you're happy for them, but it's also hard as well. And I understand now when I announce that I'm pregnant, it's hard for people that are going through the same thing to even read my post on Instagram. And so I'm very conscious of that, and, have a real soft spot for people going through, the same sort of journey. And lots of women go through it, and I've had so many people talk to me about it that said, it's not talked about enough. And that's one of the things that I think it is important to talk about, and you feel better talking about it. And I did talk a lot to my sister and my mum, and obviously Anthony as well. And it really helps. And I've got a few friends as well in the running community that I've chatted to a lot about miscarriage, and they've been through it themselves as well. And that was lovely to talk to them too.
Yeah, it's so tough because there's so much emotional and physical things that you go through when you're going through the miscarriage, and then to have your sights set on trying again, it's such an emotional roller coaster. And I totally hear you, announcing that once you've been in the position where it wasn't happening for you, it's oh, I know there's someone reading this that just wants this so badly. It's so hard.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I'm always thinking about, and I'm always happy to help. There's even girls that I coach that have chatted to me about it, or going through IVF at the moment and things like that. So I think it's a good, experience. Well, it's not a good experience to go through, but it's something that I've been through, that I can help others, and I'm keen to help other people if they want the help.
It's also one of those silent things that you go through, the random person at the coffee shop, or your neighbor isn't going to just know you're having a miscarriage because you physically can't see that that's happening. And so it's just kind of it's like an invisible thing almost. And not that you want to tell every single person you run into, you don't want to talk about it 24/7, but it's for sure an invisible, warfare going on in your life, So yeah, it's challenging. Well, I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. Yeah, no, thank you. We are just feeling so lucky and so happy and so fortunate. So we're very excited. And I think the dog is pretty excited too, although I'm not sure he won't be the only the only child in the family now.
So is this like chapter 3? Like you had like professional running career? Because you hung it up after 2012, right?
Yeah, and I was quite young. I was only sort of early 30s when I retired. And, when you look at some of these women now in their 40s, like they're just going absolutely amazing.
Wild, like Sinead.
Yeah.
Melindy.
Yeah. And it's lovely. It's so cool watching them. And and I retired at 32, and it was more because I wanted to sort of focus on other things in my life. And I won the World Cross Country Championships when I was 22, I think, or 23. 23, I think. So that was the biggest achievement in my career at such a young age too. My first Olympics was when I was 20. So I felt like when I retired, it was like I tried to race in the year after London Olympics, and I just I couldn't push myself as hard as I normally would have, and I couldn't do it in training properly. And I was still living in Boulder in Colorado. So I'd lived in Colorado for probably about 5 years before the London Olympics, and loved living there. I had a business there. It was really great. But it was just one of those things that, I just felt like I didn't have that will to do it as hard as I used to. And I think when you lose that, you can't just kind of keep going through the motions. So, I decided to retire and look at other things. And, it's been it feels like a long time since then. But, 10 years goes so quick.
You know what, though? I was just thinking as you were walking through all that, like the common thread with someone like Sinead and Melindy Elmore, like Kira D'Amato, is they all took time off. Like they all took a little bit of time when they had babies and things like that. And you were like, go, go, go from, a very young age. So you at 32 is a lot different than what these women are at 32 because they had those breaks. So it's really just like a different style of a career.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Yeah, because I do think the breaks really do help, and having something else to focus on other than just your running. And I think for my career that might have helped me a little bit because I was quite intense. If races didn't go the way I wanted them to go, it was quite upsetting. But I wasn't coming home to looking after one of my children, or I wasn't in a relationship for quite a long time in my career, and it's sort of one of those things that I think if you've had kids and you're still continuing your career, I think, you've got other focuses. And I think sometimes you don't put quite as much pressure on yourself to a detriment. And it really does help you with your career and with your goals and what you're doing. So, I had a period in my career in 2008 when my father died, which was really hard. And he, it happened quite quickly, but we knew it was a neurological disease, so we knew it was happening, and that was very hard for me to get over. It took a couple of years, but that was sort of emotionally very hard, and I think, that really took its toll on my career between 2008 and 2012. But I think, one of those things that I probably would have liked is maybe having a pet or having, something else going on towards the end of my career, but. I just admire those girls like Sinead. Sinead's going fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing how she goes this year. She had a great year last year. Like they just keep going from strength to strength. And, it doesn't mean that you get to 40, and you're the best of your runnings behind you. Like these women are showing that, it doesn't matter how old you are. It just matters, about the results and what you're doing, to get there. So it's very inspiring. And, I just can't wait to see how all these girls go, because we've got, world champs this year, Commonwealth Games as well. So lots of stuff on for Australian runners, but also, world champs is going to be huge for everyone.
I really feel like the dialogue around this has changed even in the last 6-7 years. It used to be like, oh my gosh, these women in their 30s are still running so fast. And it's quickly turning into women in their 40s. And Sinead's got to be mid 40s by now.
Yeah, I think she's a year or two older than me.
Yeah. Because I remember when I interviewed her a couple years ago, I think she was maybe 42 or 43. So she's, so I think that's really cool too, because it's like breaking, when the 4-minute mile was broke for the first time. It's it's that whole thing of once it's been done, you see it done. So then you go do it. And it's now you see these women in their 40s running really fast and running their best marathons. now other women in their 40s can say, oh, I can do that too. So I think that's really cool.
Oh, yeah. And look, I coach so many women in their 40s and 50s that are sort of, working and, full-time, doing their other jobs in their family life. And it's inspiring for them to see what these women are doing at the top end, elite athletics. And, even Lisa Waitman, she's my age, and she almost broke my Australian 10K road record a couple of weeks. Yeah, she's 31:20 on the road. So, yeah, I ran 31:17 in 2006, and I was, mid-20s. So for someone at 43 about to almost breaking that record is pretty amazing, but just says that, you're strong at any age. It doesn't matter. That's just a number. It doesn't matter what the number is.
Especially the 10K, because I feel like the shorter distances, the harder it is when the older you get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I think as well. So,
not that 10K short, but...
Yeah, but it's short, compared to the marathon, And, it was just an unbelievable run. So it's just one of those things that it is really showing a sign of the times. And just, I think, one person does it that's, a bit older, and then, it gives a lot of other people confidence as well.
Hey, everybody. A quick break here to thank Coros for supporting this podcast. Listen, Coros has the best watch on the market. I have been wearing my same watch from Coros since 2018. It has insane battery life. It is super easy to use. It's super easy to program your workouts. And so many of the best professional athletes in our sport use Coros watch, including Olympic medalist Molly Seidel. So if you're in the market, I think that this is a good time to make the switch. If you've been using Garmin or any other watches, this is the time to make the switch to Coros. I'm telling you, they're cutting edge. They're just doing all the things, and it doesn't get any easier. So you guys can go to Coros.com, use the code ANOTHER, and that will get you a free accessory item, like a free band. So you make sure you add that code in at checkout, and you're going to want a band because they have really fun colors. I think it's a good idea. Go to Coros.com, use the code ANOTHER, and that'll get you a free accessory item like an extra band for your watch. All right, back to the show.
Okay, so of these records, you held so many records, national records, 2,000 meter, 3,000 meter, 5,000 meter, 10,000 meter, 10K road, and the marathon. Do you still hold all of those records?
No. So Jess Hull has broken a few.
Oh, Jess,
Yeah, who's absolutely amazing. She trains over there in the US.
Yes.
A huge talent, and just an absolutely amazing person too. She's broken the 3K indoors one, the 3K outdoors, 5K outdoors. But Jess is amazing because every time she breaks one of my records, she sends me a message, and, she saw that I did my 3K indoor a national record at the 2001 World Indoors, and I came sixth, and she says, I've seen that result where you came sixth at 2001 World Indoors, and she really sort of appreciates what you've done as an older person and someone that's been there in the sport, and it's really cool. So and she broke the 5, she smashed the 5K one and the 3K one, but then I still hold the 10K road record, the 10K track record, 5K road, and the marathon, and the 2K. But I only did one 2K in my life. So I'm sure that's
yeah, it's not a common distance, really.
No.
Wow. Okay, Jess has been on the podcast. I'm trying to think of other Australians that I've had on the show.
What about Eloise Wellings?
No, I haven't. Should I have her on?
Yeah, she's done 3 marathons in less than a year, and
Wow.
She ran 225 just recently in Japan. So she's up and coming. She's 40 this year.
Oh, wow.
But just absolutely amazing person and athlete. Yeah. So I've known her since the World Juniors in '98 when we roomed together. So she's 3 years younger than me. But we've known each other for a long time. She's had a lot of ups and downs in her career, but moving to the marathon, she's doing fantastic.
But
so many girls that are going strong. Jess, have you had Jess Tringrove?
No, I think honestly, it might just be Jess Hull. And I know Sinead's from New Zealand, right? But she considers herself an Aussie, right?
Oh, she's Irish, yeah.
Irish.
But comes for us, yeah.
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 I honestly think it's just Jess. Maybe Morgan McDonald, he's from Australia, right?
Yeah.
He's been on the show. So I think it might be Jess and Morgan. And now Benita.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And we've all got that American connection as well.
Yeah.
So I've lived there for a long time too. Oh, I love living in America. It was, amazing. And I still have so many great mates over there as well.
Where did you live when you lived here?
In Boulder.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
and how long did you live there?
For about 5 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who did you train with?
I mainly train with Brad Hudson's group.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did some of my own training as well. So so I sort of just fitted in with other groups that were, training there. So sometimes I had my own training, and then sometimes, I jumped in with groups there. So and it really did help. I went through a marriage breakdown, and my father passed away all in 2008. Okay. So I was between sort of London and Melbourne for most of my career, and then after that. I thought I just want to do something different. So then I just moved to Boulder and just lived in Boulder for the rest of my career, which was good. And I think, sometimes when you're going through big life changes, it's really hard. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of a fresh start. Like it's really hard to sort of keep doing the same things you used to do in the same circles. And so I just thought I just want to, do something different. And there was, some Australians that I knew in Boulder, a guy called Andrew Leatherby that I did a lot of running with too. And it was really, really fun to go to Boulder and meet some new people. And it's great community, great running community. And I even started a business there in coaching. So it was one of those things where I probably would have stayed, but then when I started having nieces and nephews, I thought I'll just move back to Australia.
It's one of those things where like you want to do it all, right? Like, but you only have this finite amount of time. It's like you want to stay in Boulder, but you want to go be with your nieces and nephews. It's like you got to choose. It's so hard. So you literally went through a divorce and your dad died all in the same year?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a very hard year, that 2008. So I still ran at the Beijing Olympics in the marathon, but it was, I think in the years after that they were quite hard to sort of get back to racing my best.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard, and that's why I sort of, when I'm coaching people, I recognise there are things that go on in your life that you really have to sort of respect, that it might take a bit away from your running, and you've got to sort of take time to heal from things, and everyone's different too. So with how we deal with emotional stress, I think we're all different. So it's one of those things that we sort of have to listen to our body. And when I was younger and in my 20s, you don't listen to your body as much as when you're older. Which I think sometimes these women that are sort of, older athletes over 40, they listen to their bodies and they probably know themselves so well. It's a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that when I was running. So,
well, in 2008 in Beijing, you placed 21st. Was that like, did you celebrate that? I mean, coming off that year, I just can't imagine even being able to compete.
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, because I think my dad passed away sort of at the end of May, and I was actually in that Freihofer's Run for Women race. So we knew he was going to pass away sometime in the next few months, and I was going to fly back to Australia straight after that race. And I actually won that race, that 5K in Albany, and I planned to fly back to Australia after that. But while I was running the race, I felt like something strange at the finish, like he was with me or something. And I'm not really a spiritual person much, but I felt something strange. And then when I finished, I looked at my phone and I had heaps of messages, and my dad had sort of passed away while I was doing the race. And it was, devastating, but at the same time, I felt like he was with me there too. But that flight back from America to Australia was tough. Yeah. And then, I could have stayed back in Australia afterwards, but I thought he would have wanted me to keep doing some races. So I went back and did the Beijing Olympics, but then I came back to Australia after that and stayed with Mum for ages. So I didn't really race for the rest of the 2008. Yeah, and I wasn't in the mood for celebration too much, although my little brother came to Beijing with his girlfriend, and now they're married. And, so that was really nice. And I hung around with them heaps in Beijing as well. Yeah.
How do you make sense of that? Like, since you're not spiritual, feeling your dad at the finish line.
I don't know. So maybe I am a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was one of those things and I was really close to my dad, and and he had a neurological disease, and he was getting worse, and there's neurological diseases are hard because there's just so little known about them, and he went to all these specialists, and no one knew what it was. It was kind of like mad cow's disease, but it wasn't.
What was it?
Well, we still don't know. So he had a spinal tap, and we still don't know what it was. Yeah. And so his condition deteriorated from not being able to walk to not being able to go to the toilet himself and speak and all that. And so it was one of those things that he was just getting worse and worse, and there was no way to help him really in the end. And yeah, so that was really hard. So I don't know. I feel like because I was quite close to him, I felt like that sense that he was there, which is it's comforting in a way, but it was also very hard, and a very hard thing to go through. Even now, it's very hard. And my due date for my baby is like a day after his birthday, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So
I asked about the disease because my mother-in-law passed away from a neurological disease called MSA, multiple system atrophy. And it's like not well known at all. And so when you said he had all these tests and it was really hard to figure out, I was like, the same thing. Like they thought it was Parkinson's, but it was like way more intense and aggressive than Parkinson's. So, and it's a very it's not common. I know hardly anybody who even knows what it is. So I was curious if that's what he had, but it sounds like you don't know.
Yeah, but it was quite similar to what you were describing, because it was like Parkinson's as well, but way more.
Yeah, like double, like triple speed. Yeah. It was like a 3-year progression, and done.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry that you walked through that. That's really difficult.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry for you as well. It's horrible. Yeah, and just to see people that, like, he was a teacher.
Yeah.
At my high school, and everyone knew him, and he was one of those, like, a real fit person, and yeah, it's just one of those things that you don't like it's hard to see one of your parents like that. Yeah, but yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and look, my mum is going really well now, and it sort of brings your family closer together, even though we're always close as well. But yeah.
Do you live close to your mom?
Yeah, not far. Well, it's a 90-minute flight, so she lives.
Okay.
We live in the same state, but our state's quite big. So she lives in North Queensland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 90-minute flight. Gotcha.
And all my siblings live around where I live. Yeah.
And is there 3 of you?
There's 4 of us.
Oh, yeah. Okay, 4 of you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your gold medal at the World Cross Country Championships, and I heard you say that you really thrive in nasty conditions, like conditions that are just like you got to be aggressive and you got to be tough. And I'm curious where that comes from. Like, why do you think those environments were good for you when you raced?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, look, I grew up in a country town called Mackay in North Queensland, and it's really humid. It's always really hot, and it's one of those things that you've got to be tough to sort of get through, what you're doing. So I played heaps of sport when I was growing up, and I had 2 brothers, and, the backyard hockey games will finish when mum's yelling out dinner time or it's too dark to see the ball anymore. And I think I always had that sort of nature about me that was like I would try as hard as I could in anything I did, and nothing ever got me down. So I think when the conditions were tough in cross country, I sort of looked at it more as a challenge. There's lots of people in running these days that focus on what pace they're going and what time they're doing. But what I loved about cross country was it's all about the competition, and I'm super competitive. So I always looked at that sort of weather as adding to the competition. So I loved racing when it was muddy, when it's hilly, in bad weather. So that was sort of my favourite conditions. And I think, growing up, I sort of just thrived off that being tough, but also doing well in conditions that were hard. But also, if something didn't go well, so I was a hockey player growing up, and I played heaps of hockey, and I tended to play my best games if we'd come off a loss or I hadn't played as well the game before. So I was very good at sort of bouncing back from disappointment. And I think I see that as sort of one of those things that I like to be the underdog. I like to do stuff in adverse weather and adverse situations. So that was probably one of the things that really, when I won that gold medal, that was exactly the weather. And I had 15 mil spikes in my shoes and put them on with strapping tape. And, it was just one of those days where, you're warming up and you're cold even when you finish warming up, and you're cold when you're standing on the start line. But, once the gun went off, it was pretty amazing. And I always tell people it was the hardest race of my life. Like, when I finished, I felt so sick. I never feel like that after marathons. Cross country is one of those things where you go as hard as you can at the start. You're going hard the whole race and as hard as you can at the finish. So there's no sort of time to relax. And when I finished, it was the hardest race I'd ever done. But, I won by a fairly big margin, but it was one of those things that I was winning for the last 1,500 meters. So it's that pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like having people sort of trying to run you down. And, Australia had never won a medal before. I won world cross country, and like the commentators were even kind of saying I'd gone too early, and it was one of those things that you're hoping they're not right there, but you can't really tell because it's so noisy. So and still gosh. The last non-African to win. So it's been a long time. That was 16 years ago.
And still you're the only non-African.
Oh no, the last non-African. So there's been others before me. Yeah,
you're the last. Like you're the most recent.
Most recent, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. How did you stay in that race? Like you like the hard conditions, you like that environment and that style of racing. But what did you tell yourself? Do you remember? It was so long ago, but do you remember?
Yeah, I think the race the year before really helped me. So and because I came fifth, that I was almost going to win a bronze medal. So I was in that bronze medal position, and I could see shadows. This was a hot day in Switzerland. I could see shadows on either side of me, and I knew I was going to come fifth because I just couldn't sprint any faster. And I went from third to fifth in an instant, and that just haunted me, and it just made me mad the whole year. Of 2003. And I had some great results in 2003 after that race. I got third in the World Half Marathon Champs, ran the Australian 10K road record, 30:37. So some really big breakthroughs in my career. But I think having that race in my mind really helped me for the 2004 World Champs in cross country. And I know, so it was 8K then. So I know in the third lap, so laps of 2K. So between 4 and 6K, I sometimes lost connection with the group. So I really had to focus on pushing myself between 4 and 6K. So, I was up there at the start, but you can see that that I almost lose contact. And then once I'm there, I started feeling really good. And that last 2K was sort of, I knew the Africans that I was running with, they were sort of getting a bit tired in the big hill on it at the start of each lap. So that last 2K, as soon as I went through with the bells, I went through at 6K. I knew I sort of needed to make a move up that big hill in the last lap. So I just went pretty hard up the hill, and I had a gap on them. And then all of a sudden I had 1,500 to go, and I was in the lead by, a fair margin. And so it was one of those things that once you go in a race like that, you can't sort of let up pressure, because once they catch you again, they'll pass you. So I had that 2003 race in my mind. And I just I had so much determination from that I just didn't want to let them catch up to me. So, but it was so hard. I still remember how hard it was.
Do you remember what it felt like to have that victory? To know, oh my gosh, I just won a gold medal.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. But I think at the time I was when I won that gold medal, I was overwhelmed with how amazing it was. But I was also sort of thinking, Athens Olympics is the next thing. And, and looking back at it now as I'm older, I should have celebrated it more. And it didn't sink into me as much at the time how big it was. And, it was one of those things that I sort of, I celebrated obviously that night, and a few days after that, but it wasn't something that, I sort of, I thought I might do it again kind of thing. And, when you look back at your career, there's so many things that you never do again. You do it once and that's it. So, I should have celebrated a bit more and had a bit more sort of time to sort of let it sink in. Whereas I sort of went to a training camp straight away and thought, okay, I'm getting ready. I Athens Olympics now, what's next? And I know a lot of athletes do that, but I always advise athletes that are currently in their career to really celebrate those wins a little bit more than you think you should. And that's not by going out and partying, but probably, just understanding how big of a deal it is. Even to do a PB or a PR is huge. And I don't think I celebrated those sort of victories either as quite as much. So looking back on it, it was a huge thing, and it's a huge thing for Australia. And we still haven't got another medal at World Cross except relays, which our other 2 medals have been in relay teams, which I've been in. It's one of those things that I should have celebrated a bit more. And I don't think I sort of had the at 22 years of age as well. Like I didn't sort of let it sink in as much as it should, and didn't treat it as big of a deal as what it really was at the time. Yeah.
Hey friends, a quick break here to tell you about Relay Run Co., which is the newest running brand founded by Ann Mazer. Ann is an Olympic trials marathoner, and by the way, she was on this podcast, episode 213, right after she qualified for the Olympic trials at CIM in 2019. She's actually coming back on the show. We're going to do some life updates with her, but she has the most fun style. And at Relay Run Co., they have race kits, amazingly soft matching tie-dye sets, post-run loungewear, which is what I live in, and the softest, most supportive sports bras around. So Anne is the founder, and she is very passionate about animals. She has 3 adopted cats herself and is super excited that Relay is giving 1% of all purchases back to animal rescue. So if you're looking for the softest, most comfortable fabrics and breathable running shorts with pockets, check out their new site. It's relayrunco.com. You can also follow them on Instagram, relay_run_co. And for a limited time, if you use the code ANOTHER, you can get 15% off your first order. Let's go support Anne. Check out what she has over there. Use that code ANOTHER, and that'll get you 15% off. All right, back to the show.
So you hold the Australian record in the marathon, 2:22:36.
Yeah.
You've held that for a long time. Chicago, 2006.
Yeah. So it's it was definitely in the days of the old school, like little racing flats, and and I don't even think that was really a great run. Like, it was good, but I positive splitted in that race by 2 minutes. So I went out in 7. And it was a really windy day, so the second half was very windy. No pacemakers. I didn't even run with it. I didn't have a watch, like a Garmin watch or a pace watch. I sort of just ran the race and raced the race. So I ran it a bit like cross country. Didn't have any idea of pace. So it was sort of, and I was feeling pretty bad in the last 10K. So when I got to that finishing straight in Chicago, and when I looked up at the time, I thought it was going to say like 2:25. I had no idea how,
really?
It was quite funny. And then when I saw it was 2:22, I was like, wow, this is fast. Like,
yeah. And that placed you, what did that place you in the race?
Third.
Okay. Podium. I'm curious your thoughts. We don't have to get into it too much because, the American record just got broken here in the marathon by Kira D'Amato, and it was Dina Castor's long held record, similar to the length of time that your record's been around. How do you feel about records being broken with the pacemakers and the shoes and all the things that weren't available in 2006?
Yeah, look, I think it's just a sign of like the technology and the times. And I think, the girls that are running now with the pacemakers and the shoes and stuff, they all recognise they do help a bit. But I don't think, we can stop, if they're available, like, I would be wearing, if they were available in 2006, I'd be wearing the shoes.
Yeah.
And I could have, there was often pacemakers in marathons I ran, but I'd particularly rather just race the race. So I tended to compete better when I was racing rather than paced. So, it's one of those things that, if they get broken, they're probably going to get broken. And it's a sign of, the way the world goes. But, it's just one of those things that, I think they definitely help. But I don't have any sort of animosity. But, if someone breaks it, they break it. And they deserve they deserve to have the record. You know, Lisa Ondiki held the Australian record before me, and she got a silver medal at the Olympics and won New York Marathon, won Osaka Marathon. She was absolutely an amazing athlete and probably a better marathon runner than me, but I had one faster marathon. So I think it's one of those things that, you know, marathons are so unpredictable and so hard. And like if someone breaks it, you know, it's fantastic achievement to them. And I think I have had some marathoners tell me I should try the shoes. I've never tried the shoes. I haven't been running since I've been pregnant, but I need to get in shape to try the shoes. But apparently they're really cool.
I'm curious how growing up being competitive in hockey helped you with being a competitive runner.
Yeah, I think like the team sports was a really good thing growing up. So, you know, when I was in high school, I tended to find team sports more fun and more interesting. And I was on Australian hockey teams. I was actually in the Sydney Olympic squad for hockey when I, a few years out from the Olympics, when I switched sports to running and started training properly for running. But I think, just having your teammates around you, it just really gives you a good sense of working with other people. I think it really helps when you're on, say, running training camps. You've got to get on with all different sorts of people. You know, just learning about the team environment, and like running's an individual sport, but you do need a team around you. And I think it taught me a lot about sort of how to help other people as well, and having empathy for people if, you know, if their game isn't quite as good as your game. You know, how do you help someone when they're upset, you know, when you come off the field? But it teaches you how to sort of learn about loss. So, you know, you have so many losses as a team, but when you're younger, it's easier to deal with when you're together with your team rather than, you know, by yourself. So I think I learned a lot just with that sort of environment, and because I found it so fun. And I think if I was running heaps when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much and may have not have done it after year 12 as well, after high school. So it's probably one of those things where the elite sport through hockey got me interested in you know, maybe trying running and seeing how good a runner I could be through that experience with hockey. But I found, you know, as I got older, when I got into university, running was something that I enjoyed more because I had more time for my uni. I could still do full-time uni and train a lot. Whereas with hockey, there's so many meetings with the team that you can't really have full-time jobs or do uni full-time. So that was probably a big reason why I sort of wanted to try running and just see how good I could be individually rather than as part of a team with hockey. But yeah, I found it really fun, and I sort of always advise kids to do team sports, even if they do some running to keep fit for the team sports. I think team sports are fantastic, you know, when you're younger, and just really help you with your development too.
My son plays soccer, and they were undefeated all season, and then they just lost their last game. And it was first time I saw him get emotional about it. Like, he cried, and because he cared so much. And I was like, this is so good for him. Like, not that I really wanted them to win. I was very excited to go undefeated as the mom, but it's so good for him to experience that and learn how to handle those emotions and have good sportsmanship and all those things. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity, you know, that he has that opportunity to experience those things, because you're right. Winning and losing when you're on a team, it's just a much different situation than when you do it solo.
Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, when you do it solo, the pressure is probably back on the parent to really help console, you know, you as a little kid from losing a race or something. But as a team, there's so many other people to lean on. I've seen that you've got 4 boys.
Yeah. We have fun. We are a rowdy bunch, but we have fun. I'm so thankful for them. So were you just as good at hockey as you were at running? Sounds like you were on some pretty high level teams.
Yeah. So I was on the Australian under 21 team when I was only 17. So that was when I was in year 12. So we went on our 4 Nations tour to South Africa when I was in year 12, and after that I got offered a scholarship to the Australian Institute of Sport for hockey, which is in Perth, and that would have been after high school. But then in the same year, when I was in year 12, I also got offered a scholarship to the Australian Institute of Sport for running.
Wow.
Which was So after year 12, I had to choose between the sports, and I chose the running so I could sort of go to uni full time as well.
Wow. It's crazy to me that you like were at such a high level with both. And I think that it's so smart to do multiple sport. I just like the number of high achieving runners I have spoken to on this podcast that didn't just focus on running. The number is just like, it's like 95%, right? It's like, and I think that goes really with any sport. Like specializing too early is just not super smart to specialize and just do the one thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a huge advocate for that as well. I think high school, especially in high school, kids should be doing lots of different things. And it's too much pressure specializing in one sport too. When, you learn to deal with that pressure as you get a bit older, but you just don't want to drive kids away from the sport too. And, that's one thing that I'm really passionate about is, just always advising kids to do lots of things. And you just never know what you're really passionate about either. So you don't want, an adult pushing you into a particular sport because they want you to do it and you do it to please them. And, it's the wrong way to go about anything. So, I was very fortunate for my childhood and, very lucky to sort of grow up in the town I grew up in. And it was very very old school. I just went to state schools, didn't go to any private schools and didn't really sort of, just had a very relaxed childhood. So I was very lucky.
It's that balance though, because it's like you want to provide your kids with like lots of different opportunities to see what they really like. At the same time, you don't want to overschedule your family. And so I try really hard to make sure that they are getting a taste of other things, just like in our backyard or like on the street with their friends, because I'm not going to sign them up for 5 different sports. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a balance there. It's like, what are we going to do organized? What are we not going to do organized? But you still want to give them the opportunity to like learn all the different things. Wow. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your coaching that you do.
Oh, yeah. So I started Lace Up Running with my partner, Anthony, just at the start of COVID when it all hit into 2020. So I've been coaching since I was living in Boulder. Started a business in America sort of around 2008. And so I knew that I really loved coaching. I went to London Marathon one year when I was injured in the early 2000s just to see some friends running, and I was sort of feeling a bit sorry for myself. So I just watched all my friends who were elite athletes finish London Marathon, and then I thought, oh, look, I'm just going to stay till people try to break 4 hours, and I'm going to stay till people try to break 5 hours. And it was just amazing seeing how excited just regular people that have full-time jobs and busy lifestyles, how excited they were to meet their goals. So that was that's what got me into coaching a bit. We started in 2020. We had all these sort of lockdown events. So we had this ISO series where we sort of put on little events for people to do in their streets and in their sort of hometowns. And we got some prizes from companies that we know. And so we sort of kicked the business off a bit like that and just really had a sort of a community focus first. And then we looked at individualized online coaching. So we mainly do online coaching that's individualized, work with people of all abilities. We've got a few elites. So, we've got, Lindsay Flanagan's one of our elites that I know you've had on there before. And, but, the bulk of what we do is coaching everyday people that just want to sort of achieve something, whether it's, running for the first time or a goal in a marathon, a goal and a half marathon, or qualifying for things like Boston. So, it's been awesome and, really, really enjoy it. And the people are fantastic as well that we work with.
I love it. Yes, I remember Lindsay said that she was working with you and, man, she just had a fantastic race in Paris and the New York half.
Yeah. She's had a great year so far. Yeah. And look, to do that PB in Paris after quite a few years in the marathon is a great step forward. And, she's on track to even get better than that as well, obviously. But, New York was a fantastic run, and the top American there at that New York half, that was a really, really fantastic, run against. I mean, those American girls are on fire at the moment. So, I mean, I think there's, the Australian girls are running well, but there's way more Americans running at that top level. So it's very tough. Yeah, the depth is amazing.
I feel like with Lindsay, it seems like she's like been ready to make that PR for a while now, and to see it happen for her has been really, really cool. But I know she probably wanted a little bit more, didn't she?
Yeah. And it was tough. Paris was tough. And there was quite a number of people in that race that probably ran a little bit off what they probably should have run, whereas Lindsay did a PR. So, you know, she's in shape for something better.
Even more, yeah.
And I say that to her too, like with the marathon, you know, the breakthroughs I had were, you know, I went from 2:38 to 2:26 to 2:22 in my first 3. Yeah. So you don't know when you're going to make big breakthroughs. So you've got to sort of, you know, obviously put it all on the line, but you've got to have a bit of luck too with the course and the weather and things like that too. So she's on track for another big breakthrough.
Oh,
for sure.
It's so exciting. I know she's been working so hard for so many years, so that's so exciting. Okay, so we have to wrap with end of podcast questions. This has really been fun getting to know your story and learning a little bit more about your career. What is something professionally or personally you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
Oh, well, I think what we're starting to talk about at the start, being a mum would be something amazing. And yeah, I think that's going to be something in my life that, you know, I will always like cherish and feel so good about. So I think, it's something I didn't know that would happen for me. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. Thanks.
That's awesome. What's the best, most recent book you've read?
Oh, look, I love all the mountain climbing ones. So yeah, like some stuff like Into Thin Air. I love biographies. So yeah, I love like reading about people's lives. It's probably one thing as well. So yeah, I think mountain climbing and biographies.
Who is someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you'd like to have coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
Yeah, look, I'm not really one for famous people so much, but yeah, I think I even just love having coffee with my partner, with Anthony, and and just, you know, it's just so relaxing. So I'm gonna say him. And
I love that. I love that. We were like lounging, watching the news, which I don't love watching the news, but drinking coffee this morning. My oldest son was up, and we just sat there for like 45 minutes. And I was like, this is such a nice, like, chill way to start the day. Because usually you feel like you're like running around, getting stuff done, getting your run in and all these things. And I was like, this is so nice that just like on a Tuesday, we're just sitting here for like 45 minutes and drinking our coffee together.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It's pretty special that you pick the person to have your coffee with that you get to do with every day.
Yeah. I think I just love going. I love being at coffee shops and just relaxing. And, just looking at people.
Yes. I worked from a coffee shop this morning for a little bit because I was like, I just need to not be distracted by the things, you know, because I work from home mostly, and it's like, you're going to stop and switch the laundry. You're going to find something else to get your hands on. I'm like, I just need to be in this spot. And my key ingredient to a good coffee shop is good music at a high enough volume that it like drowns the people out enough, but not too high that it's too distracting. And this one coffee shop I found is just rocking it.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. And one thing I remember about Boulder, the coffee shops are absolutely amazing to do work at.
Oh, yeah. I bet. Probably so many entrepreneurs, runpreneurs or whatever, like knocking out training plans and stuff there. What's your last message to leave with our audience today?
I think my biggest thing is always having empathy for people and, you know, and not knowing their story. You know, I get this when I'm coaching all the time. Just, you know, you just learning a bit about people is really a fantastic way to sort of understand their journey. So, you know, everyone's gone through different things in their lives, and we've all got something to contribute and to share.
I love that. Benita, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome.
All right, friends, thanks for being here today. If you want to learn more about Benita and what she's doing, go to laceuprunning.com. You can also check her out on Instagram, Benita Willis _. You can find me personally on Instagram. I'm Lindsay Hine 626 at Lindsay Hine on Twitter. And friends, check out our new podcast in the Sandy Boy Productions Network. It's called Ready to Run. So many great episodes coming out on that podcast. Really excited about it. You can learn more about our podcast network at sandyboyproductions.com. Have a really great Friday, a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will see you Monday with another episode on our nutrition series for athletes. Have a great rest of your day.